Namaste everyone. A warm welcome to the Carolina APS Mandir to celebrate the Rishi Nirvaan Utsav 2021. As we are about to commence this celebration, I now invite everyone to proceed outside for the hoisting of the Om flag, along with the singing of the Bhajan, Yaha Om Kajanda. The hoisting of the Om flag will be done by Sri Rakesh Mahadev. He is the president of the Arya Virda. The Bhajan will be done by members of the St. Clement Vedic School.
Yaha Om Kajanda aata hai, Yaha Om Kajanda aata hai, Sone walo ja chalo, Sone walo ja chalo, Lekhan ugti ravi ki lali, Lekhan ugti ravi ki lali, Le nitya vasanti hariyali, Le nitya vasanti hariyali, Ya le lahare aata hai, Ya le lahare aata hai, धरती को जागे भाग चलो, सोने वालों जाग चलो, यहाँ ओम का झंडा आता है, यहाँ ओम का झंडा आता है, सोने वालों जाग चलो, सोने वालों जाग चलो, जब कोली कोली बरसेंगे, जब कोली कोली बरसेंगे, ये सिर खट खट कर सरसेंगे, ये सिर खट खट कर सरसेंगे, हम मार के भीषण आंगन में, हम मार के भीषण आंगन में, हंस हंस खेलेंगे भाग चलो, सोने वालों जा चलो, यहाँ ओम का झंडा आता है, यहाँ ओम का झंडा आता है, सोने वालों जा चलो, सोने वालों जा चलो, पर्वत को कह दो नम जाए, पर्वत को कह दो नम जाए, सागर को कह दो थम जाए, सागर को अनुराग चलो, सोने वालों जाग चलो। ओम का झंडा आता है, ओम का झंडा आता है, सोने वालों जाग चलो, सोने वालों जाग चलो। अब प्रेम सछाए भेड़िया का, अब प्रेम सछाए भेड़िया का, यह झंडा लहराया बाका, यह झंडा लहराया बाका। हिंसा पखंड भेड़िया से, हिंसा पखंड भेड़िया से, कह दो अब तुम भाग चलो, सोने वालों जाग चलो। यहाँ ओम का झंडा आता है, यहाँ ओम का झंडा आता है, सोने वालों जाग चलो, सोने वालों जाग चलो। We are now going to do slogans. आर्य वीरो
जागो,
संसार की श्रेष्ठ पुरुषों
एक हो जाओ,
आर्य समाज की
जय हो,
सत्य सनातन वैदिक धर्म की
जय।
As we continue the celebration of the Rishi Nirvaan Utsav, as it is customary, we will commence with the lighting of the ceremonial diya. This will be done by Srimati Leela Devkumar, along with the playing of the Gayatri Mantra. Today's Hawan ceremony will be done by our Revered Pandita Jasodhra Ragbir Singh and will be assisted by members of the St. Clement Vedic School. Before we commence the Hawan ceremony, I will now invite Pandita to chant the Rastra Gyan.
Om Abrahman Brahmano Brahmavarchase Jayatam Arastre Rajanyah Shura Ishavyuti Vyadhi Maharatho Jayatam Dogri Dhenurvodhanad Vanashu Saptihi Purandir Yosha Jishnu Rateshtha Sabheyo Yuvasya Yajmanasya Viro Jayatam Nikame Nikame Nah Parjanyo Varshatu Phala Vatyuna Oshadhayah Pachyantam Yogashimo Nah Kalpatam. O omniscient Lord, may noble persons of learning and wisdom take birth in our country. May they be born for the destruction of all evils, fearless, valiant, and heroic soldiers, proficient in the art of diplomacy. May there be no shortage of milk cows and other animals useful for agriculture. May our children become useful and cultured members of the community. Om Shanti. Shanti, Shanti.
I now invite Pandita Jasodhra Ragbir Singh to conduct today's Rishi Nirvaan Utsav Hawan ceremony. Performing the Hawan ceremony are Srimati Vijayanti Rampasad, Principal of the St. Clement Vedic School, Devika Dwaraka and son, teacher and pupil of the St. Clement Vedic School, and Dayanand Devkumar, Executive Member of the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha.
At this time, I will read the Sankalp. Om Tat Sat Shri Brahmano Dvitiya Praharardhe Vaivasvata Manvantare Ashta Vinshati Tame Kali Yuge Kali Prathama Charane Ananda Nama Samvatsare Surya Dakshinayane Kartika Mase Shukla Pakshe Ravivardine Chaturthi Tithau Jeshta Nakshatre Atigan Yoge Vanij Karane Shubha Lagane Shubha Mahurte Carolina Grame Kuve Nagare Trinidad Deshe Ayam Hawan Yajya Prarabhyate. With the thought of Om in this second quarter of the day of Brahma, in this Vaishvasvata Manvantara, in this 28th Kali Yuga, in this first quarter of this present Kali Yuga, in this year 2021, in this month November, in this bright fortnight, on this day and date Sunday 7th, constellation Jesta, in Karane Vanij, in Yoga, Atigan, in the village of Carolina, in the country Trinidad, at this auspicious time, this special Hawan Yajna, held by the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha of Trinidad, commences. आज मिल सब गीत गाओ उस प्रभु के धन्यवाद. आज मिल सब गीत गाओ उस प्रभु के धन्यवाद, जिसका यश नित गाते हैं गण धर्व गुणी जन धन्यवाद. आज मिल सब गीत गाओ उस प्रभु के धन्यवाद. मंदिरों में कंदरों में पर्वतों के शिखर पर, मंदिरों में कंदरों में पर्वतों के शिखर पर, देते हैं लगातार साव साव बार मुनिवर धन्यवाद. आज मिल सब गीत गाओ उस प्रभु के धन्यवाद. करते हैं जंगल में मंगल पक्षीगण हर शाख पर, करते हैं जंगल में मंगल पक्षीगण हर शाख पर, पाते हैं आनंद मिलता ते है स्वर भर धन्यवाद। आज मिल सब गीत गाओ, उस प्रभु के धन्यवाद। कुएं में तालाब में सिंधु की गहरी धार में, कुएं में तालाब में सिंधु की गहरी धार में, प्रेम रस में तृप्त होकर ते है जलचर धन्यवाद। आज मिल सब गीत गाओ, उस प्रभु के धन्यवाद। शादियों में जलसयों में यज्ञ और उत्सव के आदि, शादियों में जलसयों में यज्ञ और शादियों में जलसयों में यज्ञ और उत्सव के आदि, शादियों में जलसयों में यज्ञ और उत्सव के आदि, मीठे स्वर से चाहिए करे नारी नर सब धन्यवाद। आज मिल सब गीत गाओ, उस प्रभु के धन्यवाद। जिसका यश नित गाते हैं गंधर्व गुणी जन धन्यवाद। आज मिल सब गीत गाओ, उस प्रभु के धन्यवाद। Let us all now bring ourselves into a prayerful mood as we observe a minute of silence, followed by observation of the breath for 1 minute as we breathe in and out. In this peaceful state, we now chant Om 3 times, followed by the opening prayer. Om is the highest name of God in Sanskrit. It is also a great mantra. Chanting of Om helps to calm the mind and sanctify the breath. When the ether is surcharged with the vibrations of the divine name, the entire environment gets purified. Those who breathe this sanctified air will have pure thoughts. We'll now chant the opening prayer. Om Shanu Mitrah Shanvarunah Shanu Bhavadvaryama Shana Indro Brihaspati Shanu Vishnu Rukramah Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayu Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Varisyami Ritam Varisyami Satyam Varisyami Tanmam Avatu Tadvaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May you, O Supreme Being, friend of all, the holiest of all, and controller of the universe, be merciful unto us. May you, O Almighty One, Lord of the universe and support of all, endow us with knowledge and power. May you, O omnipresent and omnipotent Being, shower your blessings all around us. We bow unto you, O most powerful and supreme Being. You alone are the omniscient One, whom we feel within our hearts. We will call you and you alone the true One. Your will is truly revealed in the Vedas. Will we obey and preach? We will be truthful in word, deed, and thought. You are our shelter. May you protect us who study and contemplate your nature, who speak only the truth, so that our understanding may be firm in your will and never turn away from it. Your will is truth and righteousness. That which is contrary to your will is untruth and unrighteousness. May you again shelter and protect us. O Lord, be merciful and grant this our prayer, for which we shall feel ever and ever grateful. Let there be peace in the heavenly regions, in the middle regions, and on earth. Ishwar Stuti, meditation of the divine. Mantras are God's words, and as we chant mantras, we have the flow of God's grace in us, which energizes us and leads us on the righteous path. Mantra is that which protects the mind from being confused and creates scope for logical, focused thinking. We now commence chanting the powerful Ved mantras. Ishwar Stuti Pratnu Pasna. Om Vishwani Deva Savitar Duritani Parasuva Yad Bhadrantana Asuva. O radiant divinity, cause of all manifestations in the universe, remove all evils from us and endow us with all that is noble. Om Hiranya Garbha Samavartatagre Bhutasya Jatah Patireka Asit Sadadhar Prithivim Dyamute Mam Kasmai Devaya Havisha Vidhema. The bearer of luminous bodies and Lord of all beings was alone present in the beginning. He sustains this earth and all radiant regions. May we contemplate the nature of that blissful being with devotion. Om Ya Atmada Baladayasya Vishwa Upasate Prashisham Yasya Deva Yasya Chayamritam Yasya Mrityu Kasmai Devaya Havisha Vidhema. He is the giver of knowledge of self and bestower of strength. He is meditated upon by all the learned and is their inspiration. His shelter is salvation, and getting away from him is death. May we contemplate that blissful divinity with devotion. Om Yah Pranato Nimishato Mahitvaik Idraja Jagato Babhuva Ya Ishe Asya Dvipadascha Tushpadah Kasmai Devaya Havisha Vidhema. He, by his power, is supreme among all animate and inanimate things of the world, and he causes all bipeds and quadrupeds to come into being. May we contemplate that blissful being with devotion. Om Yena Dhyaudugra Prithivi Chadridha Yena Swahastabhitam Yena Nakah यो अंतरिक्षे रजसो विमानः कस्मै देवाय हविषा विधेम. He upholds radiant regions, the sun, earth, and other hard bodies. He sustains happy ethereal regions and salvation. He brings into being from elementary matter and dissolves into elementary matter the heavenly bodies in the zodiac. May we contemplate that blissful being with devotion. Om Prajapate Natvade Tanyanyo Vishwajata Niparita Babhuva Yat Kamaste Juhumastanu Astu Vayam Syama Patayorainam. O Lord of all subjects, none except you pervade all these objects. May all our desires for which we come to your shelter be fulfilled, so that we might become wealthy and prosperous. Om Sanu Bandhur Janita Savidhata Dhamani Veda Bhuvanani Vishwa Yatra Deva Amritamana Shanas Tritiye Dhamanadhyairayanta. He is our friend, the cause of all manifestations and the sustainer. He knows all places and regions. In him abode of all happiness, roam the learned at will, enjoying emancipation. Om Agne Naya Supatharaya Asman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan Yuyodhyasmad Juhuranameno Puishthante Nama Uktim Vidhema. O self-effulgent being, all holy and knower of all things, lead us through the path of goodness to prosperity and knowledge, and keep us away from evil deeds. To achieve this end, may we always contemplate your divine nature and be always happy. Atha Swasti Vachanam. We praise for bliss and prosperity. We sing in praise of the Great One, who is the source of all light, who existed before creation, who is the first teacher of all knowledge, material and spiritual, who is worthy of contemplation at all times, and who is the provider of all beautiful and precious things. Om Agnimide Purohitam Yajyasya Devam Ritvijam Hotaram Ratnadhatamam. Om Sanah Piteva Sunavegne Supayano Bhava Sachaswanah Swastaye. Om Swasti no Mimitam Ashvina Bhagaha Swasti Devyaditira Narvarnah Swasti Pusha Asuro Dadhatunah Swasti Dhyava Prithivi Suchetuna. Om Swastaye Vayum Upabravamahe Somam Swasti Bhuvanasya Yaspati Brihaspatim Sarvaganam Swastaye Swastaya Aditya Sobhavantunah. Om Vishwe Deva Novadhya Swastaye Vaishwanaro Vasuragnihi Swastaye Deva Avantaribhavaha Swastaye Swasti no Rudraha Patvam Hasaha. Om Swasti Mitra Varuna Swasti Pathaye Revati Swasti na Indrashagnischa Swasti no Adite Kridhi. Om Swasti Pantha Manuchare Masurya Chandramasa Viva Punar Dadatagnata Janata Sangame Mahe. May we follow the path of welfare as the sun and moon unswervingly revolve in their orbits. May we associate with those who are learned, pious, charitable, and non-violent. Atha Shanti Karanam. We pray that peace come to us from all directions. Om Shana Indragni Bhavatam Avobhi Shana Indra Varuna Ratavya Shamindra Soma Suvitaya Shanyo Shana Indra Pushana Vajasata Om Shano Bhagah Shamunah Shansu Astu Shanaha Purandhi Shamusanturaya Shanaha Satyasya Suyamasya Shansaha Shano Aryama Purujato Astu Om Shanu Dhata Shamudhartano Astu Shana Uruchi Bhavatu Swadhabhi Shanrodasi Brihati Shano Adri Shano Devanam Suhavani Santu Om Shano Agnirajyotiraniko Astu Shano Mitra Varuna Vashvinasham Shanah Sukritam Sukritani Santu Shana Ishiro Abhivatu Vataha Om Shanu Dhyava Prithivi Purvahutau Shamantariksham Drishayeno Astu Shana Oshadhir Vanino Bhavantu Shana Rajasas Patirastu Jishnu Om Shana Indra Vasurbirdevo Astu Shamaditebhir Varuna Shusansaha Shano Rudro Rudrabhir Jalashaha Shamnasvastagna Biriha Shrinotu Om Shanah Somo Bhavatu Brahma Shanah Shanu Gravarnah Shamusantu Yajnah Shanah Swaruna Mitayo Bhavantu Shanah Prasva Shamavastu Vedi. May the all peaceful one give us peace. May our religious undertakings bring us peace. May the plants and vegetables bring us peace. May the oblations in this Vedi bring us peace. Archman Mantra, symbolical purification. In sipping water, one is reminded of its wondrous qualities. Water has the qualities of cleansing, cooling, and being humble. These qualities, if inculcated, will make us rise above the animal in our personality, transcend the human, and attain to the divine. Om Amrito Pastarnamase Swaha. May this water bring happiness to all. Om Amrita Pidhanamase Swaha. O immortal one, you are the eternal support of all. Om Satyam Yashaha Shrirmai Shritam Swaha. May true action, fame, wealth, and honor be always with us. Angsparsh Mantra. We now ask God to strengthen the different parts of our bodies for performance of good work for the benefit of ourselves and the entire creation. So we touch the various parts of the bodies from right to left. Om Vangmasyestu, Om Nasorme Pranustu, Om Aksharnorme Chakshurastu, Om Karnayorme Shotramastu, Om Bahvorme Balamastu, Om Urvorma Ojostu, Om Arishtani Mengani Tanustanvame Sahasantu. May there be the power of speech in my mouth. May there be the power of breath in my nostrils. May there be the power of sight in my eyes. May there be the power of hearing in my ears. May there be strength in my arms. May there be strength in my thighs. May all parts of my body be coherently healthy. Agniyadhan mantra. We now light the sacred fire. Om Bhur Bhuvah Swaha. Om Bhur Bhuvah Swajariva Bhumna Prithviva Varimna Tasyaste Prithvi Deva Yajni Prishthe Agni Manad Manadhya Yadade. We now fan the fire. Om Udbhudya Swagne Pratijagrihi Tvamishta Purte Sam Shrijethamayam Cha Asmin Sadhaste Adhutarasmin Vishwe Deva Yajmanuscha Sidita. Samidadhan mantra. We now make offering with the Samidha. Om Ayanta Idma Atma Jatu Vedhiste Nidhya Swavardha Swacheda Vardhya Chasman Prajaya Pashubir Brahma Varchase Nanadye Nisamedhaya Swaha Idam Agne Jata Vedase Idanna Mama Om Samidhagnim Duvasyata Grita Bodhaya Tatatim Asmin Havya Juhotana Om Susamidhaya Sochashe Gritam Tivram Juhotana Agnaye Jata Vedase Swaha Idam Agnaye Jata Vedase Idanna Mama Om Tantva Samidbhirangido Gritena Vardhyamasi Briha Chochaya Vishtaya Swaha Idam Agnaye Angirase Idanna Mama. Gritahuti mantra. In this mantra we pray, O all-pervading one, we offer ourselves to you as we offer this fuel to the fire. May you enlighten us in greater and greater measure as this fire grows with the application of fuel. May you enable us by the help of true knowledge to attain physical and spiritual well-being. We chant this mantra 5 times. Om Ayanta Idma Atma Jatu Vedhaste Nidhya Swavardha Swacheda Vardhya Chasman Prajaya Pashubir Brahma Varchase Nanadye Nisamedhaya Swaha Idam Agne Jata Vedase Idanna Mama Om Ayanta Idma Atma Jatu Vedhaste Nidhya Swavardha Swacheda Vardhya Chasman Prajaya Pashubir Brahma Varchase Nanadye Nisamedhaya Swaha Idam Agne Jata Vedase Idanna Mama Om Ayanta Idma Atma Jata Vedhaste Nidhya Swavardha Swacheda Vardhya Chasman Prajaya Pashubir Brahma Varchase Nanadye Nisamedhaya Swaha Idam Agnaye Jata Vedase Idanna Mama Om Ayanta Idma Atma Jata Vedhaste Nidhya Swavardha Swacheda Vardhya Chasman Prajaya Pashubir Brahma Varchase Nanadye Nisamedhaya Swaha Idam Agnaye Jata Vedase Idanna Mama Om Ayanta Idma Atma Jata Vedhaste Nidhya Swavardha Swacheda Vardhya Chasman Prajaya Pashubir Brahma Varchase Nanadye Nisamedhaya Swaha Idam Agnaye Jata Vedase Idanna Mama. Jal Prasechan Mantra. Do it the normal way. Om Adite Numanyaswa Om Anumate Numanyaswa Om Saraswatya Numanyaswa Om Deva Savita Prasuvayajyam Prasuvayajyapatim Bhagaya Divyu Gandharva Ketapu Ketanaha Punato Vachaspatir Vachanaha Swaritu. Continue with offering of the key to the north, south, and then middle. Om Agnaye Swaha Idam Agne Danamama. Om Sumaya Swaha Idam Sumaya Idanamama. Om Prajapati Swaha Idam Prajapati Idanamama. Om Indraya Swaha Idam Indraya Idanamama. Om Bhuragnaye Swaha Idam Agnaye Idanamama. Om Bhuvarvayave Swaha Idam Vayave Idanamama. Om Swaradityaya Swaha Idam Adityaya Idanamama. Om Bhurbhuvah Swaragni Vayavadityebhyah Swaha Idam Agni Vayavadityebhyah Idanamama. At this time we do some special mantras, Pawan Pawaman mantras, and we make offering with the ghee. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Agna Ayumshi Pavasa Asuvurja Misham Chanaha Are Badhasva Duchunam Swaha Idam Agne Pavamanaya Idanamama. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Agni Rishi Pavamanaha Panchajanyaha Paruhitaha Tamimahe Mahagayam Swaha Idam Agne Pavamanaya Idanamama. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Agne Pavasva Swapa Asma Varchaha Suviryam Dadhadraim Mai Posham Swaha Idam Agne Pavamanaya Idanamama. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Prajapate Natvade Tanyanyo Vishwajatani Paritababhuva Yat Kamaste Juhumastannu Astu Vayam Syam Patayorayinam Swaha Idam Prajapate Idanamama. Switch the Krita Huti mantra. We make offering with the prasad. In this mantra, we pray whatever excesses or shortcomings we have committed, we now commend to the Almighty and seek His rectification thereof for our material and spiritual well-being. We make this oblation in the name of the self-effulgent being who purifies us and enables us to fulfill our desires. May our desires be fulfilled and may our speech be ever truthful. We have made this wish in the full knowledge that we have no claim to its fulfillment. Om yadasya karmano tyariri cham yadvan yunamihakaram agnishtat swishtikrit vedyat sarvam swishtam sahutam karotu me agnaye swishtakrite sahutahute sarva prayaschita hutinam kamanam samardhayitre sarvanah kamanta samardhaya swaha Idam Agne Swishtakrite Idanamama. Prajapati Huti mantra. We now make offering with all ingredients. Om Swaha Idam Prajapati Idanamama. Prataha Kalki mantra. We'll do the morning and evening mantras. Om Surya Jyotir Jyotih Surya Swaha. Om Surya Varcha Jyotir Varcha Swaha. Om Jyotih Surya Surya Jyotih Swaha. Om Sajur Devena Savitra Sajur Roshasandra Vatya Josharnaha Suryovetu Swaha. Sayang Kalki Mantra. Om Agnir Jyotir Jyotir Agnihi Swaha. Om Agnir Varcho Jyotir Varchah Swaha. Silent Mantra. Om Swaha. Om Sajur Devena Savitra Sajuratrendra Vatya Joshano Agnirvetu Swaha. Pratah Sayam Ahuti. Om Bhuragnaye Pranaya Swaha. Idam Agnaye Pranaya Idanamama. Om Bhuvadvaya Vepanaya Swaha. Idam Vaya Vepanaya Idanamama. Om Swaradityaya Vyanaya Swaha. Idam Adityaya Vyanaya Idanamama. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaragni Vaya Vadityebhyah Pranapana Vyanebhyah Swaha. Idam Agni Vaya Vadityebhyah Pranapana Vyanebhyah Idanamama. Om Apo Jyotirasomritam Brahma Bhurabhuvaswaro Swaha. Om Yamedham Devaganaha Pitaraschopasate Tayama Madhya Medha Yagne Medhavinam Kuru Swaha. Om Vishwani Deva Savitar Duritani Parasuva Yad Padrantana Asuva Swaha. Om Agne Naya Supataraye Asman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan Yuyodhyasmad Juhuranameno Puishtante Nama Uktim Vidhema Swaha. Pratijahuti Mantra. In this mantra we pray, O self-effulgent being, Lord of the holy ordinances, we shall observe the vow of truthfulness in thought, word, and deed. May you enable us to successfully observe this vow of truthfulness. Om Agne Vratpate Vratam Charishyami Tate Prapravimi Tachikeyam Te Nardhya Samidamaham Manritat Satyam Upaimi Swaha. Idam Agne Idanamama. Gayatri Mantra. Let us all put our hands together as we chant the Gayatri Mantra 3 times with offering. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Swaha. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Swaha. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Swaha. Namaskar Mantra. We acknowledge you, O peaceful being, the eternal source of joy and happiness. We acknowledge you, O giver of peace and spiritual well-being. We acknowledge you, O blissful one, a still more blissful being, who fulfills our material and spiritual desires. Ever and evermore do we acknowledge and recognize you, O Lord. Om Namah Shambhavaya Cha Mayo Bhavaya Cha Namah Shankaraya Cha Mayaskaraya Cha Namah Shivaya Cha Shivataraya Cha Swaha. Now place our hands towards the fire as we pray for health and strength and for knowledge. Om Tanupagnesi Tanva Me Pahi. Om Ayurda Agnesya Ayur Me Dehi. Om Varchoda Agnesi Varcho Me Dehi. Om Agneyan Me Tanva Unam Tanma Aprina. Om Medha Me Deva Savita Adadhatu. Om Medha Me Devi Saraswati Adadhatu. Om Medha Me Ashwinau Deva Vadhatam Pushkarasraja. Purnahuti mantra. Make offerings 3 times with the rest of the ingredients. Om Sarvam Vai Purnam Swaha. Om Sarvam Vai Purnam Swaha. Om Sarvam Vai Purnam Swaha. Gayatri Mantra. Let us put our hands together. Om Bhur Bhuvah Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. हे दयालु परमात्मन, आप अपनी असीम कृपा से हमारी सदा रक्षा करते हैं। आप ही हमारे जीवन आधार है। अपने सेवकों के दुखों को दूर करके उनको सुख देने वाले हैं। आप सर्वत्र सुप्रतिष्ठित और सुप्रसिद्ध है। आप सर्वोत्तम शुद्ध पवित्र और ज्ञान स्वरूप है। आपसे ही यह सारा जगत उत्पन्न हुआ है। आप ही सकल शुभ गुणों को खान है। आपका हम प्रतिदिन ध्यान करें और आप हमें विवेकशीलता, भावनावती, मेधा, सद्बुद्धि प्रदान करें। O Supreme Being, cause of all manifestations in the universe, source of existence, intelligence and bliss, we meditate upon your adorable nature. May you illumine and inspire our intellect. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. This has brought us to the end of the Hawan purification ceremony. At this time, we will do another bhajan. पूजनीय प्रभु हमारे भाव उज्ज्वल कीजिए, छोड़ देवे छल कपट को मानसिक बल दीजिए। वेद की गावे रिझाए, सत्य को धारण करे, हर्ष में हो मग्न सारे, सुख सागर से करे। अश्वमेधा दिख रचाए यज्ञ पर उपकार को, धर्म मर्यादा चलाकर लाभ दे संसार को। नित्य श्रद्धा भक्ति से यज नारी हम करते रहे, रोग पीड़ित विश्व के संताप सब हरते रहे। पूजनीय प्रभु हमारे भाव उज्ज्वल कीजिए, छोड़ देवे छल कपट को, मानसिक बल दीजिए। भावना मिट जावे मन से पाप अत्याचार की, कामनाएं पूर्ण होवे यज्ञ से नर नारी की। लाभकारी हो हवन हर जीवधारी के लिए, वायु जल सर्वत्र हो शुभ गंध को धारण किए। स्वार्थ भाव मिटे हमारा प्रेम पथ विस्तार हो, इदन मम का सार्थक प्रत्येक में व्यवहार हो। पूजनीय प्रभु हमारे भाव उज्ज्वल कीजिए, छोड़ देवे छल कपट को, मानसिक बल दीजिए। हाथ जोड़ झुकाए मस्तक वंदना हम कर रहे, नाथ करुणा रूप करुणा आपकी सब पर है। पूजनीय प्रभु हमारे भाव उज्ज्वल कीजिए, छोड़ देवे छल कपट को, मानसिक बल दीजिए। मानसिक बल दीजिए, मानसिक बल दीजिए। A lion-hearted man, also the one who was so clear-headed and clear-sighted, truly a seer and savior of his people. Such a man was Swami Dayanand, Maharishi Dayanand Saraswati. He was the first person to raise his voice for the people and to work for their uplift, for equal rights of all, high and low, man and woman. He gave them equal status. He gave his life to raise his people from their fallen condition, to give them back their lost manhood, their lost honor, their lost soul. He deserves to be loved and honored. I now dedicate this bhajan in tribute to Maharishi Dayanand Saraswati. दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे, दयानंद का काम पूरा करेंगे, दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे। उठाए ध्वजा धर्म की हम फिरेंगे, उठाए ध्वजा धर्म की हम फिरेंगे, उसी के लिए हम जिएंगे मरेंगे, दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे। गुजारेंगे वेदों को हम गीत गाकर, गुजारेंगे वेदों को हम गीत गाकर, दिखाएंगे दुनिया पुरानी बनाकर, दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे, दयानंद का काम पूरा करेंगे। बसाएंगे शहरों को जंगल में जाकर, बसाएंगे शहरों को जंगल में जाकर, बिताएंगे जीवन को सच्चा बनाकर, दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे। उठाएंगे ऋषियों की आवाज को हम, उठाएंगे ऋषियों की आवाज को हम, बनाएंगे फिर स्वर्ग संसार को हम, दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे। मिटाएंगे सब संप्रदायों मतों को, मिटाएंगे सब संप्रदायों मतों को, बनाएंगे फिर आर्य सारे जगत को, दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे। वही प्रेम गंगा यहाँ फिर बहेगी, वही प्रेम गंगा यहाँ फिर बहेगी, जो संसार की तापमाला हरेगी, दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे। कहेगा जगत फिर से एक स्वर में सारा, कहेगा जगत फिर से एक स्वर में सारा, वही वृद्ध भारत गुरु है हमारा, दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे, दयानंद का काम पूरा करेंगे, दयानंद के वीर सैनिक बनेंगे।
And now I am very honored to introduce the chairperson for today's proceedings. This individual is a very hard-working, committed Arya Samajist. She is a member of the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha Executive, as well as the School Board of Management. She was a former senior teacher at the Rio Claro APS Vedic School and served in the field of education for 43 years. She is also the secretary of the Rio Claro Vedic Alumni. She has served in many other committees in her community of Rio Claro. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with extreme pleasure to introduce to you the most humble Srimati Parvati Raghunanan to chair today's proceedings.
Thank you, Kumari Devki Ramrup, for that warm introduction. Namaste. Today, the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha of Trinidad celebrates Rishi Nirvaan Utsav 2021 in honor of our great founder, noble leader, and the greatest reformer of Hinduism, Maharishi Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Although Maharishi Swami Dayanand Saraswati died on Diwali night, he left a deep impact on the Indian society and the concept of religion. Swami Dayanand worked tirelessly for the political, religious, and cultural emancipation of the country. He was always guided by reason and taking Hinduism back to the Vedic foundations. Because of his logical, scientific, and critical analysis of religious faiths, and for bringing a revolution in the notion of divinity, he was given the label of Maharishi and was ranked the highest among the makers of modern India. Maharishi Swami Dayanand teachings are equally relevant today, and as such, we pay tribute to Swamiji through commitment in carrying on with his mission and vision. His enlightenment lit numerous illuminations among his enlightened followers and the spirit of Arya Samaj for making the world noble, Krinvantu Vishwam Aryam. And our theme for Rishi Nirvaan Utsav 2021 celebrations today says Shocham, purity of body and mind. We must always remember that the healing comes with the nourishing of the mind, body, and soul. A clean mind becomes able, forceful, and brilliant. A clean body becomes vigorous and virile. And clean thoughts, feelings, and desires invariably lead to peace, order, and harmony. And according to the Maharishi Swami Dayanand, the soul is one in its nature, but its entities are many. At this time, we begin the second half of today's function as we continue to celebrate Rishi Nirvaan Utsav 2021, the cultural segment. We commence our program with the singing of the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha theme song, Arya Samaj Hamara. This will be done by Srimati Reshma Nandalal Maharaj, a teacher of Montrose Vedic School.
आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है। आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है। आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है। आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है। कैसा शुभ दिन आया है, सबका मन हर्षाया है। कैसा शुभ दिन आया है, सबका मन हर्षाया है। काम जो कर दिखलाया है, यह जाने जग सारा है, यह जाने जग सारा है। आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है। ओम ध्वजा लहराएंगे, पैर कनार बजाएंगे। ओम ध्वजा लहराएंगे, पैर कनार बजाएंगे। आगे बढ़ते जाएंगे, आर्यों ने ललकारा है, आर्यों ने ललकारा है। आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है। सबको वीर पढ़ाएंगे, संध्या हवन सिखाएंगे। सबको वीर पढ़ाएंगे, संध्या हवन सिखाएंगे। सजावट प्रकाश से ही दूर हुए अंधियारा है, दूर हुए अंधियारा है। आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है। अमर रहे यहाँ आर्य समाज, बिगड़े सभी संवारेगा। अमर रहे यहाँ आर्य समाज, बिगड़े सभी संवारेगा। नंदलाल मानवता का वह ही एक रखवाला है, वह ही एक रखवाला है। आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है। आर्य समाज हमारा है, आर्य समाज हमारा है, आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है। आर्य समाज हमारा है, प्राणों से भी प्यारा है।
Dance will be taking the spotlight at this time. Performing to the song Ghar More Pardesiya from the movie Kalank is Caitlin Sarup. She is a student from the Gandhi Memorial Vedic School. Caitlin is 10 years of age and has been dancing with the Shiv Shakti Dance Company for the last 5 years. Let's welcome Caitlin Sarup with a lusty round of applause.
रघुकुल रीत सदा चली आई, प्राण जाए पर वचन न जाए।
Thank you very much, Caitlin, for that wonderful and entertaining performance. Can you please remain on stage for a moment to accept a token of our appreciation? To make the presentation, I now invite Kumari Nirmala Maharaj to present the President's message is none other than the very charismatic, visionary, dedicated, devoted, and hardworking President of the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha of Trinidad, Shri Roshan Parasuram Singh.
Being fit for life means hardness in the body, love in your heart, and purity of mind. My dearest devotees, pundits, panditas, executive members, members of the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha, the listening and viewing public, our distinguished speaker, Dr. Satish Prakash, Namaste. It is with great vitality and zest that I welcome each one of you on behalf of the APS Executive to our virtual Rishi Nirvaan Utsav 2021. With our theme being purity of mind, as we ponder on this year's theme, I too as president of this organization share Swami's sentiment, and I invite you to recognize the significance of this day as we yet celebrate another Diwali and Rishi Nirvaan Utsav during a pandemic. Diwali being one of the most important festivals of Hindus is celebrated with great gusto every year. Diwali is universally recognized as the festival of light, the triumph of knowledge over ignorance, and the substitution of all that is negative with that which is positive. As we celebrate this most auspicious occasion of the Hindu calendar during uncertain times because of COVID-19, we call on all Samajas, in particular our Hindu brothers and sisters, to reflect upon the significance of this great festival and to inculcate its message into our daily life as we strive together to remove the darkness of hate, discrimination, and racism, and replace them with the illumination of love, unity, and brotherhood. Occasions like Diwali continue to present the opportunity for all of our people to display the world as one nation, the beauty and uniqueness of our cultural, ethnic, and religious diversity and tolerance. Juxtaposed to the celebration of Diwali, this function serves to remind us that we lost our founder, the late, great Maharishi Swami Dayanand, on Diwali night, and that he would have wanted all of us to carry on with his hard work and portray his visions to the world by service to humanity. One of Swami's main goals was to do good to the world, as mirrored in our vision, Quinvento Vishwam Aryam, making the world noble. The Arya Samaj, under the leadership of this current executive, is no doubt practicing the teachings of Swami as we struggle through COVID-19 to sustain lives and livelihoods. Our executive members have been extremely busy in providing assistance to needy families from our schools and across the country. During this auspicious time, I hope we can continue this act of benevolence as charity starts from home. Notwithstanding the challenges of COVID-19 and the pandemic, the APS expresses the hope that in the near future, we remain resolute and committed to ensuring unity in diversity so that our beloved country can experience real development and progress as we have been doing in our mandirs, schools, and ECC centers to ensure we protect our rich cultural heritage and press on for even more goodwill. Vedic principles and theology sum up the practice of our teachings in 3 simple guidelines: to abstain from all evil, to cultivate good, and to purify one's mind. These 3 principles form graded sequence of steps progressing from the outward to the inward. Each step leads naturally into the one that follows it, and the culmination of the 3 in purification of mind makes it plain that the heart of Vedic practice is to be found here. Purification of mind, as understood in Vedic teachings, is the sustained endeavor to cleanse the mind of defilements, those dark unwholesome mental forces which run beneath the surface stream of consciousness, poisoning our thinking, values, attitudes, and action. The chief among the defilements are the 3 that Swami has termed the root of evil: greed, hatred, and delusion, from which emerge their numerous offshoots and variants: anger and cruelty, greed and envy, conceit and arrogance, hypocrisy and vanity. However, in an attempt to make the world noble, the criterion of genuine enlightenment lies precisely in purity of mind. The purpose of all insight and enlightened understanding is to liberate the mind from all desecrations, and the goal of the teachings is defined quite clearly as freedom from greed, hatred, and delusion. From the perspective of Diwali, meaning the festival of light, and Utsav, meaning celebration, our minds must always cultivate love and forgiveness, glowing like the diyas and the fierce fire of the Hawan. Today I share with you the secret of purity of mind. The secret is meditation. In our Vedic teachings, meditation must be carefully devised method of mental development, theoretically precise and practically efficient for attaining inner purity and spiritual freedom. The principal tool of sincere meditation are the core wholesome mental factors of energy, mindfulness, concentration, and understanding. But in the systematic practice of meditation, these are strengthened and yoked together in a program of self-purification which aims at abolishing all negative thoughts so that not even the subtlest unwholesome stirring remains. The final and ultimate purification of mind is to be accomplished through the instrumentality of wisdom, the knowledge and vision of things as they really are. Wisdom, however, does not arise through chance or random good intentions, but only in a purified mind. The achievement of this purification of mind begins with the challenge of self-understanding. For countless eons, we have acted on the spur of greed, hatred, and delusion, and thus the work of self-purification cannot be executed hastily. In obedience to our demand for quick results, the task patience, care, and persistence as indicated in all Swami thoughts and actions. In conclusion, I take this opportunity to remind you that as Arya Samajas, we must never forget our Dharma and teachings of the great Swami Dayanand. If we wish to self-actualize, life lesson from Swami Dayanand that advocate for purity of mind include: never give up on what you love, live life to the fullest, value friendship, treat everyone equally, enlighten everyone with your knowledge, and uphold your Dharma. It is my fervent wish that God will continue to bless all of you and your families with good health, peace, prosperity, and happiness. The APS wishes to extend warm Diwali greetings and happy Rishi Nirvaan Utsav to every citizen, especially our Hindu brothers and sisters. Ladies and gentlemen, members, principals, teachers, students, friends, and family of this great organization, I bid you a pleasant namaste as we strive to make the world noble by the purity of mind. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you, Sri Roshan Parasram Singh, for that inspiring message. The next item on the program is a bhajan titled Aaj Andheri, and this will be done by Srimati Reshma Nandalal Maharaj, a teacher at the Montrose Vedic School.
आज अंधेरे में है हम इंसान, ज्ञान का सूरज चमका दे भगवान। आज अंधेरे में है हम इंसान, ज्ञान का सूरज चमका दे भगवान। दुनिया हो
He was born in 1953 in an Arya Samaj's home in West Coast Demerara, Guyana, South America. At the age of 7, he chanted Ved mantras in such a manner that his parents and local Arya Samaj elders were convinced he would be taking an inner interest in Vedic Sanskrit knowledge in his later life. At the age of 12, he edited and circulated a transliterated and translated version of the Hawan mantras for use among young Hindu worshippers. During his undergraduate years at the University of Guyana, Satish Prakash organized several seminars, workshops, and camps in which he lectured on the teachings of the Veda. In 1976, he wrote and published an anthology titled The Veda, What It Can Teach Us. This book has been used for years by thoughtful minds seeking to grasp the inner meaning of the Veda. In 1974, Satish Prakash graduated from the University of Guyana with a first degree in Spanish and French. In 1977, he traveled to India to study Sanskrit grammar and etymology according to ancient methods of instruction. In 1985, he earned his Doctor of Philosophy degree from Gurukula Kangri University, Hardwar, India. During the 8 years he spent in India with his acharyas, Dr. Prakash studied the Vedic limbs and sublimbs and other exegetical works. He has had intensified discussion with celebrated scholars involved in researching the Veda. He brings to the West an in-depth understanding of the etymological method of Vedic interpretation structured by Yaska Muni thousands of years ago and rejuvenated by Rishi Dayanand Saraswati in modern times. Dr. Satish Prakash has evolved into becoming a thinker and writer of considerable caliber. As founding Acharya of Maharishi Dayananda Gurukula, a cultural and educational center with campuses in both New York City, USA, and Guyana, he currently teaches Sanskrit language and literature to adult audiences and travels to many countries lecturing on Veda and allied subjects. Dr. Satish Prakash has written and published on several works of Hindi Sanskrit literature, including Vedas, Upanishads, Niti Shastra, Dharma Shastra, Ramchandrit Manas, Bhagavad Gita, Satyat Prakash, and Sanskar Vidhi. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I present to you the featured speaker for today's program, the renowned, brilliant, and most humble Dr. Satish Prakash.
Om Vishwani Deva Savitarduritaani Parasuva Yad Bhadram Tanna Asuva Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste, brothers and sisters of the Arya Samaj, more especially the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha of Trinidad and Tobago, under the presidency of our son Roshan, Bhai Roshan. I greet you from New York City, and I know on today's day you're all assembled in what we call the Utsav, the famously known Utsav, and all of you are participating in this activity, and you're honoring Rishi Dayanand, you're offering him tribute and homage and veneration on this day, on this Diwali day, on this Rishi Nirvaan day. his soul left his body and went straight into mukti. And so it is very important for everyone participating, and even if they're not there at the venue, but every Sanatan Dharmi and Arya Samaji, on the day of Utsav, what are we thinking about Rishi Dayanand, and why are we seeking to memorialize him? And I would seek, because I have limited time, I would seek to answer that question by making a few important points. The first point is that he was born when he was born into a very rich family. And you might be surprised to hear me mention this, but why is he being born in a rich family? Why is that important? Because people in India, I don't know so much about other countries, but people in India have a tendency of running away from home when the family is stricken by poverty. That was not the case of that boy, Mool Shankar. He wasn't yet Rishi Dayanand. He was Mool Shankar, and he wasn't born in a poor family. He was born in a rich family. And he used to wear jewelry. Being the son of a rich father and a rich mother, he used to wear jewelry. And he had enough at his disposal to make his life comfortable. Why would a person living in comfort want to run away? And we will answer that question later on. But his mother, they say, the historians, the biographers say that his mom was a very kind lady. The father was also kind, but also very stern. And you would find both of these sanskaras of kindness and of sternness being part of Rishi Dayanand's personality. That's the first point to remember. The second point to remember is that while growing up, he was brought up as a Shivite. He was brought up believing in Lord Shiva. His father was a great Shiva Bhakt, a great Shiva devotee. And his father told him that the Shiva religion, the Shivite religion, was the greatest religion, the greatest sect within the larger arrangement of Hinduism. The larger Hindu arrangement had many sects, Vaishnava, Shaiva, Tantra, Devi, and all those. But of them all, the Shiva Sampradaya, the Shiva sect, was the greatest sect. And the father also told him that if you recite the Shiva Puran regularly, and if you go and you pour water and milk on the Shiva Linga, the emblem of Shiva, you can qualify for mukti. And more so on Shivaratri night, if you observe the fasting and the vigil, meaning if you don't eat and you don't sleep, you will have a darshan of Lord Shiva. And so, brothers and sisters, on Diwali night, Mahashivaratri night in the year 1837, accompanied by his father, this little boy Mool Shankar went to the Shiva temple and sat there ready to stay up all night. And of course, he didn't eat anything all day. He wanted to have a darshan, a vision of God. Now, brothers and sisters, in the Americas, in the Western world, sometimes we tell our children that on the night of the 24th of December, 25th being Christmas, Santa Claus is going to come up in the skies, pulled on a cart, pulled by the horses, and he's going to come fill the stockings with gifts. And there was a little boy who, and it's a true story, this little boy waited up all night and waited and waited and waited and kept awake just to have a glimpse of Santa Claus. But nobody came. Of course, you and I know that Santa Claus would never come. It's the parents who fill the stockings with gifts. Santa Claus didn't come, and the boy slept away at about 2 a.m. in the morning. And when he woke up at about 9 a.m. the next day, he told his mom, "Mommy, Santa Claus didn't come." The same was the case with Mool Shankar. He kept away from food all day, and he kept away from sleeping all night, and he sat there. And while the Shiva dhuns, the Shiva Bhajans were being sung, he too sang. And up to 11:45, the biographers say, after which people started dozing off. But Moolji, that little child, did not doze off. And he kept looking at everybody and wanting to know, is their faith in Lord Shiva so shallow? Is it that they really want to have a darshan of Lord Shiva? Then why aren't they waking up? Are they so shallow in their faith? And then while he was thinking like that, and by the way, he threw water in his eyes to keep awake. And then he saw that incident that brings so much bitterness between Arya Samajists and Sanatanists. And so, to be politically correct, I wouldn't mention, you know what it is, but that incident took place, and his faith became shaken. And he ran to his father to look for answers. And his father told him to be quiet. After trying to answer him, the father told him to be quiet, but he didn't have an answer. And then he went to his chacha, and his chacha was a little bit more comforting to him and said, Beta, this has been happening for years. People keep the vigil and they keep fast, but they don't see Lord Shiva. And then the boy said, it was the same case of the boy hoping for Santa to come to fill the stockings. He didn't see God. He went, he observed all the disciplines to have a vision of Lord Shiva, and he did not get a vision of Lord Shiva. And so he went home and he rapped at the door and he told his mom, Darwaza kholo meri mai, wo Shivaji mila nahi, wo Shivaji mila nahi ma meri. Open the door, mom. This darkness on the outside, it was a dark night. Darkness on the outside resembles the darkness in my heart. All day I maintained fasting, and all night I maintained the vigil, hoping that I would have had a vision, a darshan of Lord Shiva, and I didn't get him. Mom opened the door, and Mom, I'm now hungry. Give me something to eat. And he ate some sweets and he went to bed. That was another thing you and I need to remember. And bear in mind, the first inklings of inspiration in terms of who God might be, the initial inklings of inspiration came to that little boy, 13 years of age. And bear in mind, I will ask you a question later. Why is it that bodha, that inspiration, that motivation, that enlightenment, why did it happen on such an important day for the Hindu world, Mahashivaratri? Second point to bear in mind. Third point to bear in mind, he was one day when he was about 17 or 18, thereabouts. He was at somebody's house for a ceremony, and suddenly he got information that his sister was sick. She had cholera, and he rushed home. He rushed home to see his sister. And after a while, 90 minutes they tried, and they couldn't cure her of cholera, and she died. And everybody started crying. But listen, brothers and sisters, that young man, 17, 18 years of age, he did not cry. And he kept asking himself the question, what happened to my sister? An hour ago or 2 hours ago, she was throbbing with life. And now 2 hours later, she's limp and she's lying prostrate on the ground. What happened to her? Where is her soul? What is death? Why is it that we have to die? Why is it we have to get sick? And like the Buddha did in 600 BC, he asked himself the same questions. But then about 2 years later, his Chachaji died. His Chacha had loved him very much, and he had loved his Chacha very much. And his Chacha died, and at that time he cried. And then subsequently, he asked himself the same question. Why is it that we cry when there is death? We try to run away from death. And why is it that we try to embrace life? What are the bonds created in life that cause us to grieve in death? And the same questions, well, who is this God? Why do human beings die? When they die and leave, where do they go? Right now, I live with my mom and my dad and my siblings and my cousins and everybody else. But when I die, where do I go? And whichever place I go, in whose company will I stay? Among whom will I live? And these questions haunted this Mool Shankar. And even while he was doing his studies, he kept to himself. He was very quiet, and his attention was turned inside. And his parents looked at him, and they were getting very concerned, and they did think of getting him married, because that was the age people married their sons. And more so, if their sons were delinquent, meaning they didn't listen to their parents, the parents thought that getting their son married was the best way of calming him down and getting him to concentrate on wife and children, who will come later, and then family. And the father wanted to give him some of his tax collecting jobs, some of his administrative jobs, but Mool Shankar was not interested in all of that. Mool Shankar was only interested in finding out who is God, what is life, what is death, what is karma, how does it impact? When we leave, where do we go? And wherever we go, whom do we live with? In the meantime, he asked many times to be sent to Banaras to go study Sanskrit and Ayurveda. And the father said, no, you need to stay home and live a family life. Because they knew he was walking on the path of being a sadhu. He wanted to renounce. They knew that. And so Mool Shankar, he ran away from home twice. The first time he ran away, and I wouldn't make it long, he ran away and he went to a place called Siddhapur, and he changed his name to Shuddha Chaitanya, and he took off all his jewelry. He gave his jewels away, and he put on a brahmachari's clothing, and he called himself, in fact, somebody gave him the initiation, and he called himself Brahmachari Shuddha Chaitanya. Shuddha means pure, and Chaitanya means consciousness, a brahmachari who had pure consciousness. But the thing is, he told somebody whom he had known from his village, Tankara, that he was going to another place. And the man who saw the sadhu who saw him in a brahmachari's clothing, that sadhu was very surprised. And the sadhu sent a telegram to his father, Karshan Tiwari. And they came in no time, grabbed him, gave him a few slaps, and sent him home. When Moolji came, what are you and I memorializing? Listen, I'm building the tempo for you to understand how important this Utsav is in Trinidad and in any other part of the world. This is very important for you and I to think about what were the motivations for this boy Mool Shankar. Listen. And he went home, and when he went home, he saw arrangements being put in place for him to get married. And he watched. And he knew that the time had come for him to totally disappear, never to return. When nobody was paying him any attention, Mool Shankar slipped out through the window, caught onto the roads and highways, kept himself in the dark, told no one anything. And he ran and he ran. And the guards came looking for him. And he ran and he ran and he ran. And nobody saw him again. His parents never saw him. And his siblings never saw him. His cousins never saw him. He went away forever. And it was there that the poet of the Arya Samaj sings a beautiful song. Raat ke andhere mein उठ कर सवेरे में चले छोड़ कर अपना घर. Late into the night, in the early hours of the morning, he stealthily slipped away, and he never came back. And when Arya Samaj, a preacher, sing this song, and you hear it and you understand, you feel like crying, because you are associated with this act of tremendous sacrifice. He went and he started looking for teachers. He went, he saw some who were halfway good, and he saw others who were not good at all. Those who knew something, taught him something. He was deep in the practice of yoga, meditation, and yoga exercises. And he studied some important books talking about God. And he subsequently went to visit all the ashrams. Some of the names of those ashrams were Joshi Mutt, Okhi Mutt, such ashrams. And he met the Mahantas, the in charges of the ashram, and asked them if they knew about God, and they found God, and nobody knew about God enough to tell him, and nobody, worse yet, nobody had found God. And Rishi Dayanand felt that people only talked about God. People only prayed to God, but they didn't know whom they were praying to, and they didn't know whom they were talking about. People did all manner of rituals, but they didn't know the psychological and spiritual value behind such rituals. Rishi Dayanand peeked into caves. He climbed mountainous ranges filled with thorny bushes that scraped and scratched him so much as to take out blood. I wrote a book on the life and doctrines of Rishi Dayanand. And when I came to this part, he looked for teachers and didn't find. And here's the Alaknanda River, And on that side of the river, there were 4 houses. And he wanted to cross the river to ask those people if they knew any genuine teacher around. It was winter and the water was icy, snowy and icy. And when he went into the river, he didn't have warm clothing like you and I have today. He wore cheap cotton clothing. And when he went in, the ice cut his legs. Blood was oozing out. And the sea of the river, the Alaknanda River, was filled with a layer of ice. So his foot didn't have the grip, and he was slipping all the time. And he knew that if he slipped once, he would never be able to stand up because there's no grip. And at one time he thought, let me stay right here and freeze to death because several years had already passed. And he didn't find the teacher of his heart who could teach him about God, life and death and rebirth and mukti and all those issues and questions. He didn't find anybody. And he said, let me freeze to death. But the pragmatist in Dayanand said, no. Let me use this body for the betterment of humanity. And so the idea of committing suicide left him. Anyhow, he struggled, and with stamina, he reached the other side, where he was trembling like a leaf. And the people from the houses saw him come out, and they ran to him, trying to offer him help. They gave him 2 rotis, chapatis, and a little bhajan, and he ate it. And he said, they told him, come to our house, you will get heat. And he said, no, I can't get up. And he tore his kurta, and he tied his bleeding legs. He tied them. And he rested for a while in the cold. And then he got up and went back to the ashram from where he started his journey that day. People saw him and they were very surprised. He looked all haggard and all tired and fatigued. He went, took a sleep, and next morning early, he got up again looking for teachers. While looking for teachers on the banks of the Narmada River, Narmada in Gujarat, on the banks of the Narmada River, he heard of a great grammarian teacher by the name of Maharishi Swami Vivekananda Dandi. But he also heard that that teacher was blind. And he wasn't very enthused, even though he heard great things, he wasn't very enthused about the teacher because he thought that blind as he was, the teacher might not be able to teach. And so he took a while making up his mind. And in the meantime, he kept looking for teachers. And I'm trying to address the question, what are you and I thinking of Rishi Dayanand that you and I can memorialize him? And today is the day. The 2 Utsavs, one in February and one in October, November. The 2 Utsavs are the times that Arya Samajists in Trinidad seek to think about very deeply in a research mode, think about and memorialize Rishi Dayanand. And I feel so happy talking to you all. And so Rishi Dayanand, not yet a Rishi, I will just call him a Swami. Before that, Swami Purnanandji had gave him the sannyas of being a Swami, and he became a Swami, and his name was Swami Dayanand Saraswati. And then he went on, and then he decided to go to Maharishi Swami Vivekananda Dandi in Mathura. And Swamiji at that time was teaching in what you call a stall, part of a marketplace. A big merchant had given him the stall, and he was teaching there. And Swami Dayanand went late. He arrived at the place of Swami Virjanan, and he knocked on the door. And the Swami inside the room said, "Who is it? Who are you?" He said, "It is that I came to find out. मैं कौन हूँ ये मैं नहीं जानता. इसी को जानने के लिए मैं आया हूँ. I've come to find that out." He said, "What's your name?" He said, "Dayanand Saraswati." "Why are you here?" "I'm here to sit at your feet to learn." "What books have you studied?" And he mentioned a few books of Sanskrit grammar. And Virjanan gave him a command. "You want to study from me? You will take all those books and throw them in the Yamuna River that flows by just nearby." Now, in those days, you didn't have too many printing presses. You had some, but not too many. And books were hard to come by. Swami Dayanand didn't have a job. Sannyasi didn't have a job. And the little dan dakshina he would get, he would buy those books. And to go throw them away, that was so difficult. But this was the first command of his guru, somebody who was going to make his guru in the next morning. And so he went and threw the books away with a heavy heart, but he threw the books away. And he came back, arranged for somebody to look after his food and to give him oil that he could light his lamp to study and a place for him to stay. And very soon, one morning after doing his yoga and his prayers, he presented himself to Swami Virjanan. And then Swami Virjanan told him something which you and I must think about. This is very important. Before the Mahabharata, the books written by the Rishis were the books studied and taught. And they include Vedas, Upanishads, Aranyakas, Darshanas, and Sutras. They were the books written by the Rishis, and written by the Rishis is called in Sanskrit Arsha. Bear that word in mind, Arsha. They were the Arsha books, the Rishi written books. And after the Mahabharata, they were scholars, but they were not Rishis. And whatever books they wrote were subject to a lot of doubt. And so Virjanan gave him the first lesson, the line demarcating Rishi written books away from non-Rishi written books. And he told him, Virjanan told Dayanand, "I will teach you Sanskrit grammar coded by Rishi Panini and commented upon by Rishi Patanjali. I will teach you the Arsh grammar, the other grammar called Manorama and Siddhanta Kaumadi are flawed systems of grammar. I used to teach that, and I've stopped teaching that. I'm teaching you now the Rishi written grammar called Ashtadhyayi." And in just less than 3 years, but let's say 3 years for the sake of this discussion, in 3 years, Dayanand mastered the whole gamut of Sanskrit grammar. What are you and I memorializing? Here he was getting the key called grammar to open up the room, to open up the door leading into a room of Vedic knowledge. That's what, among the things you and I are memorializing, it is this one. He got that key that we call Vyakarana Kunjika, the key of grammar that gave him, that empowered him to go turn the lock on the door that would soon lead him into the hall of Vedic wisdom. Up to that point in time, bear in mind, all he learned from his guru was grammar. He didn't learn Vedas. He only learned grammar. He was still not a Rishi. A Rishi is he who sees the deep meanings of the Vedas. Swami Dayanand was not yet a Rishi. He was just Swami Dayanand Saraswati, a profound knower of grammar. And then on the day when he was to have graduated, he knew that his guru had gum problems. And he knew that the clove, lavang clove, had a juice inside that quietened gum pains. And so he climbed a clove tree, picked a quantity of clove, and on the day of his graduation, he went and sat in front and said, "Maharaj, you have been very kind to me. You gave me the knowledge of grammar, and today my studies have come to an end, and I'm leaving you to go to my next stage in life." And he said, "I've brought you this dakshina of clove. And Virjanand, as if he was enacting something, he said, Dayanand, this is but a paltry dakshina. This is a dakshina minus substance. For all I kept you in my school and I gave you knowledge, this is what you're giving me? He was enacting a point. And then Dayanand said, well, Maharaj, Guruji, other than this clove, all I have is my body. I have nothing else. You want to take this body as a dakshina. And then Virjanand Swami never cried, but on that day he cried. Sannyasis and monks don't cry. But on that day, brothers and sisters, on that day, oh my God, Swami Virjanand cried and cried bitterly. He said, what a substantial dakshina. And I've been watching you all the 3 years you've been studying. And I was hoping, would you give me your body and your mind and your intellect? And he said, take it, Guruji. He said, Beta, India was once the international center of power and wealth and knowledge. India ruled the world. Today, India is ruled by outside invading nations. The Mughals came and ruled India. And then the British came and are ruling India. While their rule has brought some sense of order to India, we are still enslaved. We are an enslaved people. And the custodians of knowledge, the so-called Brahmins, have messed up this Vedic / Sanatan / Arya, and let me say, / Hindu religion. They have messed it up. One, they don't know Vedas. And when you don't know, how can you teach? All they're interested in how to earn more, how to earn more. On one side, there is Islam. One side, there is the British, the advancing British. And on the other side, there is a proselytizing Christian. And they're all taking away the Hindus from what they belong. Go, my son, and preach the knowledge of the Ved and snap the chains that are binding Mother India. And Dayanand Saraswati bowed to him, not yet a Rishi, Swami, bowed to him and said, Tathastu, may it be so, let it be so. And he left. And he left and he walked all over northern India and he gave lectures and he conducted debates. He wrote a few books, minor ones, little booklets, I would say. And he gave people the Gayatri Mantra and told them to wear janeo. His philosophy was still in the making. He wasn't yet a Vedic Rishi. So based on what he learned in Mathura from Swami Virjanand, oh my God, his tenets and philosophy and ideas were still in the making. And gradually he gave up his old Puranic self. The first thing he gave up was the beads. Second thing he gave up was the mark on the head. There were 3 lines called Tripundra, a tilak. He gave that up. He said, those things don't lead you to God and religion. This doesn't lead you to God. If you want to wear something, wear janeo, yajyon pavit. It has 3 threads. And these 3 threads teach over the several multiple trinities that govern your life. One is God, soul, and matter. One is death to parents, death to rishis, and death to the atmosphere. Understand the trinities as they govern your life. And he preached and he taught and he debated and he preached and he taught and debated. And just after that, he went to Calcutta. And he saw another Samaj called the Brahmo Samaj at work. And 2 main people, there were more, but 2 main people were associated with Samaj, with that Samaj. One was Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who had already died when Dayanand reached Calcutta, but there was Keshav Chandra Sen and Maharishi Devendranath Tagore. And Dayanand saw how these people had printeries, how they wrote books, and how they wrote books with simple language and simple ideas, and how they influenced the Bengali masses. There was a book that Maharishi Devendranath Tagore, the father of Rabindranath Tagore, He wrote a book. Maharishi Devendranath Tagore wrote a book called Brahmodharma with 14 chapters. And Maharishi Devendranath Tagore showed Swami Dayanand. And it was there that Swami Dayanand was imbued initially with the idea to write a book along similar lines. When he left Calcutta after seeing the prachar techniques of the people, how the leaders synced with the masses, Dayanand went back to Banaras and Bombay, and there Raja Jai Kishan Das told him to write a book embodying all his reform ideas. Dayanand did not know Hindi very well because Hindi was still an evolving language. He spoke and carried on his life in Sanskrit. And he knew Gujarati because he was born in Gujarat. But he didn't know Hindi. He knew a little bit. And so Raja Jai Kishan Das appointed a scribe to take down the ideas of Dayanand Saraswati. What are you and I memorializing? Next thing we are memorializing is the dictation and the final publication of the first edition of the Satya Prakash. Why you say first edition? Was there a second edition? Yes, I will talk about that later. And that book, because it touched on topical issues and current burning issues, women, caste system, injustice, conversion of Hindus, the state of Sanskrit, no Vedas. Dayanand did not see the Vedas until the white Christian missionaries gave him a copy of the Atharva Ved. He had to send to Germany. Look how bad India was. He had to send to Germany for a copy of the 4 Vedas. Oh my God. Can you understand worse enslavement? You enslave them physically and you enslave them in terms of their literature and their ideas and their history. They were enslaved. Anyhow, the Vedas came, and based on the knowledge of Sanskrit, he started reading the Vedas, by which time he had already read books like Manusmriti and all of that. When he was dictating the Satya Prakash, he quoted extensively, profusely from the Manusmriti. But he told them, yes, I believe there are many things, interpolated parts in this book, and it needs to be cleaned up. I hope somebody after me will clean up the Manusmriti. And by the way, we're teaching Manusmriti in New York, and we're teaching from a cleansed version of the Manusmriti, but more of that later. 1875, the first Satya Prakash was published. You and I are memorializing Rishi Dayanand for the first edition of the Satya Prakash. In that same year, on April the 10th, 1875, Dayanand Saraswati established the Arya Samaj and gave us initially 28 principles, but later condensed into 10, gave us 10 principles of the Arya Samaj. And in among those 10 principles, there was this one: Ved is the fount of all knowledge. Reading and teaching Ved is the primary duty of all mankind who wants to be noble, all Aryas. And the next thing he said, that dispelling ignorance and promoting knowledge is the prime object of this Arya Samaj. The reason why we have become small is that we are not gathering knowledge anymore, and we are not teaching knowledge. Rishi Dayanand established 3 organizations: the Arya Samaj, the Paropkarini Sabha, which is a charitable institution, and 9 Gurukulas, 1, 2, 3. The Gurukulas collapsed before he died because the teachers were not teaching Vedic stuff, and so they died. The Paropkarini Sabha in Ajmer is still alive. It's a big institution, and the Arya Samaj has reached all the corners of the earth. Though somewhat small, and I would say even a little bit weakened, but the Arya Samaj is alive. And through that, the message went far and wide, has gone far and wide. Who would have known that Guyana would have had Arya Samaj? Suriname would have had Arya Samaj. Trinidad would have had Arya Samaj. Fiji and Mauritius and now in America and Canada and Sydney and Australia. I mean, Sydney, Australia and New Zealand and parts of England and Holland and all these places, they have Arya Samaj. Parts of Africa, Uganda, South Africa, Tanzania, they all have Arya Samaj. So brothers and sisters, Rishi Dayanand, but the story is not yet done. After many years of traveling all over North India, he didn't get to go to the south because North India is quite large. Then he went to the princely states of Rajasthan. The last princely state, why I say princely state, they were not run by the British East India Company, they were run by kings and princes. So the princely states of Rajasthan, and the last one he went to was Jodhpur. And there they conspired and they gave him ground glass mixed with arsenic in his milk. And he drank it. But when the cook, Jagannath, brought the milk, look at me, his hands were trembling. But Rishi then was busy writing the second edition of the Satyaprakash. He was busy writing the second edition of the Satyaprakash because certain things were included in the first edition that were not supposed to have been there. So he was writing the second edition of the Satyaprakash. But Rishi Dayanand didn't pay attention. He was a human being. But by that time, he was now a Rishi. He saw through the Ved. Rishis are those who see through the Ved. Now, I would not say Swami Dayanand anymore. And you too should never say Swami Dayanand. You will now say either Rishi Dayanand or Maharishi Swami Dayanand or Maharishi Dayanand. So Maharishi Swami Dayanand drank that milk, and in 2 hours, the arsenic and the glass began acting on his stomach and his intestines. And for more than a month, he constantly had diarrhea. Had it been somebody else, they would have died immediately, but the Rishi was a very strong Baal Brahmachari. And I'll tell you one thing, and I'll try to be politically correct. There was a doctor of a certain religion who sought to speed up the death of Rishi Dayanand. I'll tell you his name, Dr. Ali Mardan Khan. Well, I wouldn't call the name of his religion, which you would guess what it is. I'm not here to cast aspersions on anybody's religion, but Dr. Ali Mardan Khan. But then another doctor of Hindu persuasion came, and he tried to save the Maharishi, but the damage to his intestines and stomach was far gone. Now we come to the day of Diwali in the year 1883, on October the 30th. It was a Tuesday. When the Rishi, just before, the day before, the Rishi knew he was going to, I don't want to say die, Rishi Dayanand didn't die. His soul left his body and went into Mukti. But when he was ready to pass on, if I'm to use that term, he asked to be shaved in body parts, shaved. He couldn't take a bath because he had pneumonia. He took what you call a dry bath. And he lay down on his bed and he asked his followers, what day and date is it? And they told him, it's Diwali day. What time is it? It's 20 minutes to 6. I wrote all of this in great detail. Then he asked all of them to come behind him, behind his bed. They all followed. He said, open the doors and the windows. They did. Air started to come in. It was a bit chilly. That's the time it's winter in India. Then he looked up in the atmosphere. He didn't look at anybody anymore. And all of this was being witnessed by a young scientist by the name of Guru Datta Vidyarthi, who had come from the Punjab to see what help he could have rendered. He stood in the corner of the room and he stared at Dayanand. And it is said Dayanand also stared at him because he had met Dayanand in Punjab. And he told Swami Dayanand, then Swami Dayanand, I don't believe in your God, but I like your Arya Samaj. And so I will work with the Arya Samaj. And the Rishi, now Rishi, then Swami said, don't worry, I'll make you a big believer in God. And all that time, that young man, 23 years old, was looking at Dayanand Saraswati and saw death approaching. And Dayanand looked, not at anyone, but looked up. And he started praising God by chanting Veda mantras and praising God in Sanskrit and then later in Hindi. And then about 5 minutes to 6, according to eyewitness reports, documented, he said, "Ay Bhagavan, kya leela rachayi aapne? What a drama you have enacted. Ay Bhagavan, kya leela rachayi aapne?" He was talking about his life. What an interesting life he had. How he was born. How he passed through several layers of consciousness to arrive where he was now. 1824-25 to 1824-1825 to 1883. What a dramatic life. What a wonderful life. Wasn't blaming God. What a wonderful life. Kya leela rachayi aapne? What a wonderful, kya adbhut leela rachayi aapne. What a wondrous drama, life drama you have enacted. Bhagavan teri ichha purna ho. God, whatever is your will, let that will be done. Whatever is your desire, let your desire be fulfilled. 2 minutes to 6. He took a deep breath in. And before he took the deep breath out, he turned on his side and he expelled the breath. And with the breath being expelled, eyewitness accounts say that his soul left his body. Please don't ever say he died. He didn't die. You and I died. The Rishi never died. The Rishi's soul left through here and went straight through the portals of Mukti. But let me tell you one thing more. Historians ask, why is it that his first inspirations were on one holiday called Mahashivaratri and his final exit of the soul on another important day called Diwali? Why? Why wasn't it other 2 days? And 2, how is it that the soul exited the body exactly at 6 o'clock? Not 1 minute to 6. They watch the time. Exactly at 6 o'clock. Because this huge diya called Dayanand Saraswati came and kindled millions of diya hearts. And while they were flickering, he said, my job is now done and I'm going. And Gurudat Vidyarthi asked the question, when he saw how death was gradually approaching, did death conquer Dayanand? And the voice from inside silently came, Na'a, Dayanand conquered death. So brothers and sisters, I can't talk any much longer. I know you all have a full packed program and you have many other items to execute in the program. But on this day, go home and read a half a page from the Satyar Prakash. Go home and read a half a page of his life history if you have it. And if you don't have his life history, ask me to send you a piece on WhatsApp, a part of his life, and I'll send it to you. That's my Shraddhanjali unto the Rishi, the Maharishi. If you don't have a piece of his life history, ask me, I'll send it to you by WhatsApp. Contact me. You want my number? Get it from our son Roshan. Get it from any other Pandit who knows my number. Pandit Hansraj and Pandit Radhe Ramdas. I hope they are there today. I hope you invited them. All of us should be united. Rishi Nirvaan belongs to all of us with the same sense of togetherness. Read a portion of his writings or a portion of his life. And do Sandhya. If you haven't been doing Sandhya, do your Sandhya and sing the glory. Dayanand ki jai, Dayanand jai ho. Sing his glory. I can't sing because I'll be taking up important time and Roshan would want to carry on with the rest of his program. But on this day, ask yourself, what are you memorializing about the Rishi, and how well are you succeeding in memorializing? You can only memorialize if you know his life history. And with that being said, I now seek to come to an end. Om Vishwani Deva Savitar Duritani Parasuva Yad Bhadram Tanna Asuva Om Shanti Shanti, Shanti. Namaste to all of you. May God bless all of us. Happy Rishi Nirvaan. I will now end the program.
Let us warmly welcome again Srimati Reshma Nandalal Maharaj to sing Tumhi Ho Mata in keeping with the celebration of Diwali.
तुम्ही हो माता पिता तुम्ही हो बंधु सखा तुम्ही हो माता पिता तुम्ही हो बंधु सखा तुम्ही हो साथी तुम्ही सहारी कोई ना पना सेवा तुम्हारी तुम्ही हो साथी तुम्ही सहारी कोई ना पना सेवा तुम्हारी तुम्ही हो नैया तुम्ही देवैया तुम्ही हो बंधु सखा तुम्ही हो माता पिता तुम्ही हो बंधु सखा तुम्ही हो जो खेल सके ना वो धूल हम हैं तुम्हारे चरणों के धूल हम हैं जो खेल सके ना वो धूल हम हैं तुम्हारे चरणों के धूल हम हैं दया की दृष्टि सदा ही रखना तुम्ही हो बंधु सखा तुम्ही हो माता पिता तुम्ही हो बंधु सखा तुम्ही हो बंधु सखा तुम्ही हो बंधु सखा तुम्ही हो
Thank you, Srimati Reshma Nandalal Maharaj. We have come almost to the end of today's function. Saying thank you to persons who have contributed towards a successful function is of utmost importance. To do this very important task of appreciation is Srimati Natasha Mahadev, a member of the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha.
Thank you, Srimati Parvati Raghunandan, for that warm introduction. Namaste, everyone. On behalf of the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha of Trinidad, I would like to thank all persons who contributed into making this Rishi Nirvaan Utsav 2021 a successful one. Firstly, I would like to thank Almighty God for gracing us with this auspicious day to perform Hawan and celebrate this year's Rishi Nirvaan Utsav. Thank you to Pandita Jasodha Raghuvar Singh and members of the St. Clement's Vedic School for performing the Hawan ceremony. Hearty thank you goes out to Caitlin Sarup and parents for taking the time to participate in our celebration today. Special thank you to Srimati Reshma Nandalal Maharaj for singing those lovely bhajans. Thank you to Sri Dayanand Ramrup on the dantal, Sri Bindra Bachan on the keyboard, and Sri Dilan Basdev on the dolak for accompanying Srimati Reshma Nandalal Maharaj. To Sri Rajesh Jagmohan and Kumari Devki Ramrup, thank you for donating the Hawan materials. Many thanks goes out to Srimati Rekha Singh, Srimati Pulo Sigulam, Srimati Lisa Bechu, and Srimati Sunita Ramsrup for decorating the mandir today. Thank you to Srimati Parvati Raghunathan for the sweets, and thank you to Srimati Rekha Singh and Sri Rakesh Mahadev for the drinks. Finally, a special thank you to the Utsav committee coordinated by Srimati Pulo Sigulam and members Srimati Rekha Singh, Kumari Vidya Ramachala, Srimati Parvati Raghunathan, Kumari Nirmala Maharaj, Sri Rajesh Jagmohan, Sri Rakesh Mahadev, and Sri Dayanand Devkumar. Without their hard work, this day would not have been possible. Thank you to Srimati Parvati Raghunathan for chairing today's program, executing with precision and accuracy. Hearty thank you to you, the viewers and listeners, for taking the time to tune in and view our function today. Thank you all once again on behalf of the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha of Trinidad for taking the time to celebrate Rishi Nirvaan Utsav 2021. Namaste and Happy Diwali to all.
A heartfelt thank you to Srimati Natasha Mahadev. At this point in the program, I again introduce Srimati Reshma Nandalal Maharaj. She will be singing the Aarti Bhajan. Please welcome her.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Jai Jagadish Hare Bhakt Jano ke Sankat Bhakt Jano ke Sankat Kshan mein dur kare Om Jai Jagadish Hare भक्ति बढ़ाओ संतन की सेवा। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे, स्वामी जय जगदीश हरे। भक्तजनों के संतत, भक्तजनों के संतत क्षण में दूर करे। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे।
Thank you, Srimati Reshma Nandalal Maharaj. Please remain on stage to accept a token of our appreciation. I now invite Srimati Pulo Sigulam on stage to make this presentation. At this time, I invite Pandita Jasodhra Ragbir Singh to chant the closing mantra, and that is the Shanti Path. Namaste.
Om Yau Shanti Antariksham Shanti Prithvi Shanti Rapa Shanti Roshadhaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shantir Vishvedeva Shantir Brahma Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shanti Deva Shanti Sama Shanti Redhi. May there be peace in the heavenly regions. May there be peace in the atmosphere. May peace reign on earth. May the waters be soothing, and may the medicinal herbs be healing. May the plants be the source of peace to all. May all enlightened persons bring peace to us. May the Vedas spread peace throughout. May all other objects give us peace. And may peace even bring peace. And may that peace come to us forever. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste.